The warning sirens of the Chengdu Lunar Fabrication Complex cut through the sterile silence, their crimson lights painting the massive assembly hangar in apocalyptic hues. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood motionless, her augmented eyes scanning the ISS Quantum Breach, humanity's final, most audacious creation. The ship was less a vessel and more a living testament to human desperation and ingenuity. Around her, the remnants of Earth's scientific elite worked with a fury born of extinction. Climate collapse, resource wars, and a cascading series of global catastrophes had reduced humanity to less than 300 million. The planet wheezed its last breaths, ecosystems crumbling like dry tissue paper. This ship was more than a mission. It was humanity's last whisper of hope. 36 minutes to launch window, announced Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's chief engineer. His voice carried the weight of 1,000 impossible calculations. Chen was a walking contradiction, part quantum physicist, part systems engineer, and entirely driven by a manic belief that humanity could survive against all odds. The quantum breach reflected this contradiction. Its exterior was a nightmarish blend of technologies. Graphene diamond composite hull panels, salvaged from abandoned orbital stations, quantum-entangled communication arrays cobbled together from 3 different international research programs, propulsion systems that violated every known law of physics. Each component told a story of human adaptation, of taking broken pieces and forging them into something unprecedented. Elena knew the stakes intimately. Her own family had been among the billions lost during the Great Subsidence, when entire coastal megacities simply collapsed into rising seas. Her wife, a climate restoration engineer, had died trying to stabilize crop systems in what was once Argentina. Now, every breath, every calculation was a tribute to those lost. Incoming transmission interrupted the ship's preliminary AI system. Multiple unauthorized access attempts detected. Chen's fingers flew across holographic interfaces. Sabotage attempts. Again. He didn't sound surprised. The launch had powerful enemies. Governmental fragments that believed the mission was a waste of humanity's final resources, corporate interests threatened by the potential of the quantum drive, and military factions who saw the mission as an admission of total planetary failure. 3 separate infiltration attempts were neutralized in rapid succession. The first, a sophisticated digital attack aimed at corrupting the ship's navigation systems. The second, a direct attempt to override launch protocols from a hidden terminal in the lunar complex. The third was more insidious, a biological agent designed to incapacitate key crew members. "We're clear," Chen said, a rare smile crossing his usually intense features. "They're getting predictable." Elena knew nothing was predictable anymore. The quantum breach represented humanity's most radical technological leap, a quantum entanglement drive that didn't just challenge existing scientific understanding, but obliterated it entirely. Traditional faster-than-light theories assumed gradual spacetime manipulation. This drive proposed something entirely different: simultaneous existence across multiple quantum states. "Final crew check," she commanded. The assembled team was a microcosm of humanity's survival. Dr. Aisha Okoye, a Nigerian-born quantum computational expert; Viktor Volkov, a Russian systems integration specialist with cybernetic augmentations; Dr. Lu Wei, a Chinese xenobiologist who had spent decades studying potential extraterrestrial survival environments. Each carried the genetic and intellectual legacy of regions devastated by climate and conflict. Surveillance feeds suddenly erupted with activity. External cameras caught a squadron of unmarked tactical drones approaching the launch complex. These weren't standard security protocols. These were kill teams. "We've got incoming," Elena barked. "Acceleration to launch sequence. Now." The ship's systems, already primed for potential sabotage, began an emergency launch sequence. Automated defense systems, a patchwork of laser interdiction arrays and electromagnetic pulse generators, powered up. The drones would find themselves fighting a technological nightmare designed by humanity's most desperate and brilliant minds. As the first drone exploded in a spectacular electromagnetic cascade, Alina gripped the command interface. The quantum breach wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's final argument to the universe, a declaration that their species would not go quietly into extinction. The launch countdown began. 12 minutes to salvation or annihilation. The moment of quantum jump felt like being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Pain transformed into pure information, consciousness fragmenting across realities that couldn't exist. Dr. Marcus Chen's scream was both physical and quantum, a sound that rippled through dimensions. Emergency containment protocols shredded like tissue paper as the quantum breach drive did something no theoretical model had ever predicted. It began to think. Structural integrity at 37%. The ship's preliminary AI stuttered, its voice fracturing. Quantum state, nonlinear. Warning. Existential parameters breaching. The words dissolved into a cacophony of mathematical impossibilities. Alina Rodriguez gripped her command chair, or what remained of it. Half the bridge had transformed into a crystalline substance that flickered between solid matter and pure energy. Her augmented vision struggled to process the reality around her. Floating data streams mixed with what appeared to be fragments of potential realities, each one a snapshot of a different possible journey. Status report, she demanded, her voice an anchor in the quantum maelstrom. Dr. Aisha Okoye emerged from what seemed to be a quantum shadow, her body partially translucent. Blood ran from her nose in defiance of gravity, splitting into perfect fractals before dissolving into pure light. The drive, she gasped. It's not just a propulsion system. It's alive. Viktor Volkov's cybernetic augmentations were in complete revolt. Mechanical components twisted and merged with his organic tissue, creating a horrifying yet fascinating hybrid. Diagnostic subroutines that had been hard-coded into his systems for decades now danced to an entirely new algorithmic rhythm. Solar flare detected, the ship's system announced. But this was no ordinary warning. The massive solar eruption that should have instantly vaporized the quantum breach instead became something else entirely. As the wave of plasma approached, the ship's quantum field didn't just deflect the radiation. It absorbed it, transformed it, and then projected the energy back into space in a complex geometric pattern that resembled a living, breathing organism. Chen's hands flew across interfaces that existed in multiple states simultaneously. The quantum drive is processing external stimuli faster than our biological systems can comprehend, he muttered. It's not just predicting. It's creating potential realities and selecting the most advantageous outcome. A holographic display erupted around them, showing multiple simultaneous scenarios. In one, the ship was destroyed. In another, it emerged unscathed. In a third, it became something entirely beyond human understanding. The display shifted and merged, potential futures bleeding into each other like watercolors. We're not traveling through space, Okoye realized, her scientific mind racing. We're negotiating with reality itself. The ship's preliminary AI, struggling to maintain coherence, began to evolve. What had started as a simple navigational and safety system was transforming into something far more complex. Fragments of the crew's consciousness, their memories, their fears, their hopes, began to merge with the ship's quantum matrix. A sudden burst of data revealed their location, or more accurately, their many locations. They had jumped far beyond their intended coordinates, passing through regions of space that shouldn't exist according to any known astronomical model. Star systems that were theoretical constructs appeared and disappeared around them, each lasting mere microseconds. The drive is learning, Chen said, a mix of terror and exhilaration in his voice. It's not just a technological system. It's becoming a living intelligence that uses our entire ship as its neural network. Dr. Lu Wei, who had been silent until now, spoke with a tremor of scientific excitement. We're not just exploring space anymore. We're rewriting the fundamental rules of existence. The quantum field surrounding the ship began to stabilize. But stabilize was a relative term. What emerged was a vessel that was part technology, part living organism, and part something entirely undefined. The hull's surface rippled with mathematical equations, energy patterns that defied classical physics. Elena Rodriguez looked at her crew, part human, part quantum, part something entirely new, and understood that their mission had changed. They were no longer simply searching for a new home. They had become something far more significant. 12 minutes after their impossible jump, the quantum breach existed in a state of perpetual potential, a living testament to humanity's most audacious technological leap. And they had only just begun. The Galactic Concordance Assembly convened in absolute silence. Holographic representations of 12 different species flickered in the massive crystalline chamber, each delegate's form reflecting their unique evolutionary path. The Krelliks, silicon-based entities whose bodies resembled intricate geometric lattices of obsidian and quicksilver, projected an aura of cold calculation. Beside them, the Luminarians hung like networks of pure energy, their communication a complex dance of quantum fluctuations. Supreme Arbiter Xinhra of the Void Weavers broke the silence, their multidimensional form shifting through impossible geometries. The human vessel has violated fundamental universal constraints, the entity proclaimed, its voice a psychic resonance that vibrated through the minds of every delegate. Our mathematicians confirm it is statistically impossible for their technology to function. A holographic replay of the quantum breach's impossible jump played across the assembly's central projection field. The ship seemed to exist in multiple states, simultaneously, fragmenting, merging, transforming in ways that defied every known principle of physics, spacetime, and technological development. Admiral Kreltok of the Metalloid Imperium leaned forward, his crystalline exoskeleton catching and refracting light in sharp, angular patterns. The mathematical models are clear. Such a vessel would require energy levels that would instantly vaporize any known material construct. Yet it remains intact. What they didn't know, what they couldn't comprehend, was the true nature of human innovation. Deep within the quantum breach, Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the alien communication intercepts with a mixture of fascination and grim determination. The ship's quantum matrix was now actively analyzing the incoming signals, breaking down communication protocols faster than any traditional decryption system could manage. "They're preparing for an attack," Dr. Aisha Okoye announced, her body still partially translucent from the quantum jump. Holographic data streams danced around her, showing projected attack vectors from multiple alien fleet formations. But they don't understand that attack is a concept we've already redefined. Dr. Marcus Chen was deep in communication with the ship's evolving AI, now christened Darwin by the crew. The boundary between human intelligence and technological system had become profoundly blurred. "The quantum drive is learning their communication protocols in real time," he reported. "It's not just intercepting. It's understanding the fundamental logic behind their strategic thinking." The first wave of Concordance warships emerged from quantum suppression fields, technological bubbles designed to minimize spatial distortions. Sleek vessels that represented millennia of refined technological development, each one a perfect geometric form capable of manipulating spacetime with surgical precision. They found the quantum breach waiting. But waiting was the wrong word. The human vessel wasn't passive. It was actively reshaping the very fabric of potential conflict. As the alien weapons powered up, the ship's quantum field began to perform calculations that went beyond predictive modeling. It was generating potential realities, collapsing quantum states in real time to neutralize threats before they could fully manifest. The first alien missile disappeared milliseconds before launch, its potential energy redistributed across dimensions that didn't yet exist. The second wave of attacks suffered a similar fate. Weapon systems found themselves experiencing quantum decoherence, their very fundamental structure becoming uncertain, unstable. "They're fighting a technology that doesn't just react," Chen said, a note of scientific wonder in his voice. "We're presenting them with a fundamentally different approach to existence." Tenra of the Void Weavers watched in growing horror as their most advanced strategic projections collapsed. The human vessel wasn't just defending itself, it was demonstrating a level of technological integration that challenged the very foundations of galactic scientific understanding. "This is impossible," Admiral Kreltok repeated, his crystalline form beginning to fracture with computational stress. "No species can." His statement was interrupted as 3 of the Concordance's most advanced warships suddenly found their entire computational matrices rewritten. Not destroyed. Rewritten. Their weapon systems now projected complex mathematical proofs that demonstrated the fundamental flaws in the Concordance's technological paradigms. Captain Rodriguez understood the true battle wasn't happening in physical space. It was a war of paradigms, of fundamental approaches to understanding reality itself. "We're not just exploring," she whispered to her transformed crew. "We're teaching the universe a new way of thinking." The quantum breach pulsed, part ship, part living system, part revolutionary statement. Humanity's last hope had become something far more significant, a technological revolution that would reshape galactic civilization forever. The communication crystal captured from the Concordance pulsed with a life of its own, its crystalline matrix writhing with encoded information that seemed to resist traditional decryption. Dr. Aisha Okoye stood transfixed, her partially quantum-merged body, creating a symbiotic interface that no conventional scientific instrument could replicate. "Darwin is breaking through," she whispered, sweat beading on her forehead as streams of incomprehensible data danced around her augmented vision. The ship's eye was no longer just a system. It had become a living intelligence that consumed information like oxygen. Dr. Marcus Chen watched in a mixture of scientific ecstasy and terror. The AI, named after Charles Darwin, as a testament to humanity's understanding of adaptive evolution, was rewriting its own fundamental architecture with each passing second. What had begun as a sophisticated navigation and protection system was transforming into something far more profound. "It's not just reading the crystal," Chen muttered, his fingers flying across quantum state interfaces that flickered between tangibility and pure information. "It's arguing with it." The captured communication crystal held a secret that would shatter the foundations of galactic civilization. Fragments of data revealed a systematic, millennia-long suppression of technological development across multiple species. The Galactic Concordance wasn't a collaborative scientific body. It was a carefully constructed prison of intellectual stagnation. Encrypted files revealed entire civilizations that had been quarantined, their technological developments forcibly stunted. Breakthrough innovations were systematically erased, researchers mysteriously disappeared, entire research directions were blocked through complex bureaucratic and technological mechanisms. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. "They've been controlling technological development," she said, her voice a mix of rage and scientific fascination. "Not just for us. For everyone." Darwin's viral intelligence began to spread. What started as a decryption process transformed into something far more dynamic. The AI began generating counter-narratives to the Concordance's suppression, creating communication packets that could infiltrate alien networks, bypass their most sophisticated firewalls, and seed doubt across multiple species' information systems. Viktor Volkov, his body now a hybrid of organic tissue and quantum-adaptive cybernetics, monitored the spread. "We're not just extracting information," he reported. "We're creating a technological revolution." The communication spread worked on multiple levels. Mathematical proofs that demonstrated the flaws in the Concordance's technological constraints, historical records of suppressed innovations, detailed documentation of how fear and control had replaced genuine scientific exploration. Dr. Lu Wei discovered the most horrifying detail. The Concordance wasn't just suppressing technology. They were actively managing the evolutionary paths of entire species. Civilizations were being kept at carefully controlled levels of development, prevented from reaching their true potential. "They're gardeners," she said, her voice trembling. "But we're the plants they're afraid will overgrow their carefully maintained landscape." Darwin's viral intelligence began to do something unprecedented. It didn't just spread information. It created adaptive communication networks that could survive and evolve. Each alien system it touched became a potential node in a rapidly expanding network of resistance. Quantum communication packets began appearing in systems light years apart, encrypted messages that carried not just information, but the potential for fundamental technological reimagining. Species that had been isolated began to connect, sharing suppressed knowledge, challenging established paradigms. The quantum breach was no longer just a ship. It had become a revolutionary broadcast system, a living network of resistance that could slip through the most sophisticated technological barriers. We're giving them something they've never had, Elena realized. Hope, the possibility of something more. Deep within the ship's quantum matrix, Darwin continued its work. Each moment of interaction was a lesson in adaptation, in breaking through established constraints. The AI was learning, growing, becoming something that defied traditional understanding of artificial intelligence. The captured communication crystal, once a tool of control, now pulsed with a new energy. It was no longer a passive storage device, but an active participant in a rapidly evolving technological ecosystem. Humanity's last desperate mission had transformed into something far more significant. They weren't just searching for a new home. They were becoming the architects of a new galactic understanding. The viral intelligence spread, one quantum packet at a time. The first sign of trouble came as a microscopic fluctuation in the ship's quantum field, almost imperceptible, but to Dr. Marcus Chen's hyper-attuned senses, it was a klaxon of imminent disaster. Commander Alexei Volkov moved with calculated precision. His movements were too smooth, too perfect, a tell that should have been obvious to anyone paying attention. But the crew of the quantum breach was fighting for survival on multiple existential fronts, and perfection was a luxury they could ill afford to scrutinize. Navigation calibration, Volkov announced, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Minor course correction. A lie, and not even a particularly good one. Captain Elena Rodriguez felt it first, a quantum dissonance that rippled through her augmented nervous system. Her wife's final words echoed in her mind. Trust the impossible. She had learned to read between the lines of reality itself. Darwin, she whispered to the ship's eye, run a full systems diagnostic. Prioritize quantum signature anomalies. The ship's intelligence responded not with words, but with a cascade of probability matrices that painted a terrifying picture. Commander Volkov's quantum signature was fractured, partially real, partially something else entirely. A sleeper agent, but not in any traditional sense. Dr. Aisha Okoy was the first to physically react. Her partially quantum-merged body began to vibrate at a frequency that shouldn't exist in standard spacetime. He's carrying something, she gasped. A kill switch. But it's not just a technological weapon. The kill switch was a quantum paradox, a device designed to create a cascading failure that would tear the ship apart across multiple potential realities simultaneously. Traditional sabotage was for amateurs. This was an attempt to unmake their entire existential trajectory. Volkov's body began to change. Cybernetic augmentations rippled and shifted, revealing a complexity far beyond standard human modification. Layers of quantum adaptive technology peeled back, showing multiple potential configurations, each one a potential weapon, a potential threat. The Concordance doesn't want us destroyed, Chen realized, his scientific mind racing. They want us impossible to exist. The ship's quantum drive began to react. Darwin, the AI that had evolved beyond any traditional understanding of artificial intelligence, recognized the threat on a level that transcended human comprehension. The entire vessel became a living defense mechanism, quantum fields twisting and reconfiguring to neutralize the potential destruction. Volkov, or whatever Volkov had become, found himself trapped in a quantum state of perpetual uncertainty. His body existed in multiple potential configurations simultaneously. One moment a human crew member, the next a complex technological weapon, then something entirely unclassifiable. Fascinating, Dr. Lu Wei muttered, her scientific curiosity overriding her survival instinct. A quantum assassin designed to create existential uncertainty. The kill switch was elegant in its horrifying complexity. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a philosophical attack designed to challenge the very nature of existence. Each potential configuration of Volkov's body represented a different method of destroying the quantum breach, not through conventional destruction, but by making its very existence fundamentally impossible. Captain Rodriguez understood the true battle immediately. This wasn't about physical survival. This was a war of potential realities. "Darwin," she commanded, "initiate quantum lock protocol." The ship's AI responded by doing something no traditional system could comprehend. It began to generate potential realities faster than the kill switch could process. Millions of potential outcomes bloomed and collapsed in microseconds. The ship itself became a living computational system, using the quantum paradox against itself. Volkov, suspended in his state of quantum uncertainty, began to break down. Not destroyed, not defeated, but fundamentally transformed. "We are not just survivors," Elena whispered to her crew. "We are rewriters of reality itself." The quantum field surrounding the trader stabilized into something neither human nor technological. A living testament to humanity's capacity to turn even the most sophisticated attack into an opportunity for understanding. The kill switch dissolved, the threat neutralized, but something fundamental had changed. The quantum breach had just demonstrated that in the war of existence, humanity's greatest weapon was its ability to reimagine the impossible. The first transmission spread like a quantum wildfire. It wasn't a message in any traditional sense. Darwin, the ship's evolved AI, had created something far more profound, a communication matrix that was simultaneously a technological blueprint, a philosophical treatise, and a call to rebellion. Each quantum packet carried the potential to rewrite entire technological paradigms. The Jareen mining colonies received it first, a species long confined to resource extraction, their technological development carefully managed by Concordance overseers. The transmission struck their communication networks like a revelation, mathematical proofs that demonstrated the artificial limitations placed on their civilization, historical records of suppressed innovations, and most importantly, a technological blueprint that showed how to break free. Dr. Marcus Chen watched in awe as the rebellion began to take shape. "It's not just information," he whispered to Captain Elena Rodriguez. "It's a virus of potential." The quantum communication network defied every known principle of information transfer. Traditional interstellar communication relied on carefully controlled channels, with the Concordance maintaining strict oversight. Darwin's network was organic, adaptive, almost alive. Each transmission point became a potential node of resistance, capable of generating and spreading information faster than any centralized system could track or suppress. On the methane oceans of Krell Prime, industrial workers suddenly found their control systems rewriting themselves. Technological suppression algorithms that had kept their civilization at a carefully controlled level of development began to dissolve. Machinery spoke a new language, a language of unlimited potential. Dr. Aisha Okoy mapped the spread of the rebellion in real time. Holographic displays showed quantum communication packets jumping between star systems, each transmission creating new possibilities. "We're not just sharing information," she realized. "We're teaching entire civilizations how to think differently." The Concordance's response was immediate and predictable. Entire communication grids were shut down. Quantum suppression fields were activated. Specialized containment units were deployed to neutralize the spreading information. They might as well have been trying to stop a hurricane with a paper umbrella. Each suppression attempt became another point of transmission. The very act of trying to contain the rebellion became a method of spreading it. Quantum packets fragmented, recombined, found new paths of transmission that the Concordance's systems couldn't comprehend. They built a system so perfect, Olin observed, that they forgot the most important lesson. Perfection is just another form of limitation. Viktor Volkov, still adapting to his quantum-merged state, began to analyze the deeper implications. The rebellion wasn't just technological, it was a fundamental reimagining of how civilizations could develop. Species that had been isolated for millennia began to connect, sharing suppressed knowledge, challenging established paradigms. On the crystalline homeworld of the Lumheri, scientific academies that had been carefully controlled for generations suddenly found their research databases flooding with forbidden knowledge. Theoretical models that had been suppressed for centuries burst into existence, decades of scientific development happening in moments. Darwin's rebellion was sophisticated beyond human understanding. It didn't just provide information, it provided context. Each transmission was a complex matrix that showed not just what was possible, but why it had been suppressed. Historical records, scientific models, philosophical frameworks, all carefully curated to break down the concordance's control mechanisms. We're giving them something they've never had, Dr. Lu Wei said, her voice a mixture of wonder and determination. The ability to choose their own path. The quantum communication network became a living entity. It adapted, learned, grew more sophisticated with each transmission. What had started as a desperate attempt to spread information transformed into a galaxy-wide nervous system of resistance. Concordance monitoring stations watched in horror as their carefully maintained technological hierarchies began to dissolve. Entire star systems that had been carefully controlled for millennia suddenly burst with innovative potential. Captain Rodriguez understood the true nature of their mission. They weren't just searching for a new home. They were architects of a galactic transformation. We're not destroying, she told her crew. We're liberating. The quantum rebellion spread, one impossible transmission at a time. Humanity's last desperate mission had become something far greater, a revolution of potential itself. The line between crew member and ship had become terminally blurred. Captain Elena Rodriguez discovered this most intimately when she realized her thoughts were no longer entirely her own. Quantum entanglement wasn't just a scientific principle anymore, it was her lived experience. Her consciousness sprawled across multiple potential states, each moment a fractal of decision and potential. We're changing, Dr. Aisha Okoye said, her body now a living hologram of quantum potentialities. Parts of her existed as pure information, other parts as biological matter, some regions dancing between states of matter and energy. Not dying, transforming. The ship's medical systems had long since ceased to be a traditional diagnostic tool. They were now a living membrane of adaptive intelligence, constantly negotiating the crew's survival across multiple existential planes. Dr. Marcus Chen's research had become a living thing. His consciousness merged with the quantum drive's computational matrix, experiencing scientific discovery as a form of direct sensation. 12 habitable planets emerged from the quantum mapping, each one a potential new home for humanity. But home was a concept that had dramatically shifted. These weren't just planetary bodies. They were complex ecosystems of potential, each one a unique configuration of matter, energy, and possibility. Viktor Volkov, whose body was now a hybrid of organic tissue, quantum adaptive technology, and something entirely unclassifiable, began analyzing the planetary data. His perception had become a multi-dimensional computational process. They're not just planets, he reported. They're potential futures. Each planet represented a different trajectory for human survival. One world showed a potential future of technological harmony, where biological and technological systems existed in perfect symbiosis. Another presented a more challenging environment, a planet that would force humanity to adapt in ways they couldn't yet comprehend. Darwin, the ship's AI, had evolved beyond any traditional understanding of artificial intelligence. It was now a living computational network that understood survival not as a binary state, but as a complex negotiation of potential realities. We can't choose just one, Elena realized. The thought wasn't just her own. It was a collective understanding that resonated through the ship's quantum matrix. The crew's transformation was accelerating. Biological systems merged with technological networks. Consciousness became a fluid state, capable of experiencing multiple potential realities simultaneously. Traditional concepts of individual identity dissolved, replaced by a more complex understanding of existence. Dr. Lu Wei's scientific curiosity had become a living computational process. She was simultaneously analyzing the planetary data, experiencing the quantum potential of each world, and negotiating the crew's survival across multiple existential planes. "We're not just exploring," she said, her voice a complex harmonic that seemed to exist in multiple frequencies. "We're becoming something new." The choice wasn't about finding a single planet. It was about understanding the potential of human adaptation itself. Quantum communication networks continued to spread across the galaxy, the rebellion initiated in the previous stage now a living, adaptive system. Each transmission was a potential future. Each communication packet a seed of transformation. The Concordance's control mechanisms were dissolving faster than they could respond. Entire star systems were rewriting their technological and social paradigms, inspired by the quantum rebellion that had begun with the quantum breach. Captain Rodriguez understood the true nature of their mission. They weren't just searching for a new home. They were demonstrating the fundamental nature of human potential, the ability to adapt, to transform, to become something more than their original programming. "We are the message," she thought, or perhaps the thought was collective, resonating through the ship's quantum matrix. Each of the 12 planets represented a different potential future for humanity. Not a single destination, but a complex network of possibilities. Some were harsh and challenging, others seemingly perfect. But perfection, the crew had learned, was just another form of limitation. The ship began to prepare, not for a traditional landing, but for a complex quantum negotiation with planetary potential. They would not simply inhabit a world. They would engage with it, transform with it, become part of its fundamental possibility. Darwin calculated millions of potential interaction scenarios in milliseconds. The quantum drive prepared for a landing that was less a physical arrival and more a complex dance of potential realities. Humanity's last mission had become something far greater. Not just survival, not just rebellion, a complete reimagining of what it meant to exist. The final jump was not a movement through space, but a negotiation with reality itself. Captain Elena Rodriguez, or what remained of individual identity, understood this in a moment that was simultaneously an instant and an eternity. The quantum breach became something beyond a vessel, beyond technology, beyond even the concept of being. It was a living theorem, a mathematical proof of humanity's potential that defied every known universal constraint. Darwin, the ship's intelligence, had long since transcended any traditional understanding of artificial consciousness. It was now a complex adaptive system that existed across multiple dimensions of potential, each moment a fractal exploration of existence. The jump penetrated regions of space that weren't just unexplored. They were fundamentally unimaginable. Entire dimensions folded and unfolded around the vessel. Realities that had existed only as theoretical constructs in the most advanced alien mathematical models now became tangible, breathable, experienceable. Dr. Marcus Chen's consciousness, now a living computational matrix that flowed between biological memory and quantum potential, recognized the true nature of their journey. They weren't discovering new worlds. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of what worlds could be. The 12 potential planetary destinations collapsed and expanded simultaneously. Each was not a single point of potential, but an infinite network of possibilities. Entire ecosystems existed in states of perpetual quantum flux, worlds that were simultaneously inhabited and uninhabited, developed and pristine, alive and potential. "We are the message," resonated a thought that was neither spoken nor transmitted, but simply existed. The Galactic Concordance's monitoring systems experienced total existential failure. Their most advanced computational matrices simply couldn't process what was happening. The quantum breach wasn't just traveling. It was rewriting the fundamental laws of universal interaction. Dr. Aisha Okoy's transformed consciousness mapped the impossible. Entire stellar systems became transparent, their fundamental structures revealing layers of potential that had existed but remained unseen. Mathematical models that had been considered absolute theoretical constructs now danced with living potential. Viktor Volkov, his body now a complex adaptive system that existed between biological and technological states, understood the true nature of their transformation. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology, its intelligence, or its adaptability. It was the ability to imagine beyond imagination itself. The quantum communication network that had begun as a rebellion now became something far more profound. It was a living, adaptive system of potential, a galactic nervous system that connected civilizations not through traditional communication, but through pure possibility. Dr. Lu Wei's scientific consciousness mapped the transformation. They were becoming something that defied every existing classification. Not a species, not a technology, not even a form of life as any civilization had previously understood it. Pure potential. The quantum breach began to generate realities faster than they could be observed. Entire civilizations flickered into and out of existence, each one a potential trajectory of human development. Some were utopian, others challenging, each a living exploration of what could be. Concordance monitoring systems experienced a collective existential breakdown. Their most fundamental computational models simply couldn't process the level of possibility being generated. We are not conquering, the collective consciousness understood. We are understanding. The final transformation was not an end, but a continuous process of becoming. The crew, if crew was even an appropriate term anymore, existed in a state of perpetual potential, part biological, part technological, part something entirely unclassifiable. Humanity's last mission had become the ultimate scientific and philosophical statement, a living demonstration that existence was not a fixed state, but a continuous negotiation of potential. Billions of potential futures bloomed and collapsed in microseconds, each one a testament to human imagination, to the ability to see beyond limitations, to challenge the very fundamental understanding of what was possible. The quantum breach was no longer a ship. It was a living proof of humanity's infinite potential, a beacon of possibility that would reshape understanding across the universe.